Okay, welcome to my presentation as to why Jim Halpert is a bad man. Yes, you heard me correctly. I said what I said. Jim Halpert actually was a bad man. And if you look at those two pictures, that's how he's normally presented in the series, in all nine series of the US version of The Office. That is how he's been presented. On the left, you can see he's looking at the camera. He's sharing an inside joke with the screen. He's probably said something really funny, or he's pranked Dwight as he normally does throughout the show. On the right, however, he's a dutiful husband to Pam, and it's mostly that right side that I'm talking about. How to get to that dutiful husband character, he's left one or two people heartbroken. He's left a few hearts on the floor, and he's kind of just stamped on them a little bit. Bringing me onto my first slide, Jim and Katie. Yes, I don't even know how long they really lasted. It was very, very short, but they met when Katie was selling handbags in the office, weirdly, and then Jim asked her out. She said yes, clearly. And it's mainly this picture here that I'm kind of saying, where they've just had a kind of a fire because of Ryan. Ryan started the fire, as you all know, and they're waiting outside. And she asks him to go out to lunch. They go out to lunch, but he looks past the car and sees Pam and Roy. And then you can see on his face that he's clearly jealous of that relationship. He doesn't really know why they're together. And I guess in his head at the time, he doesn't really know why him and Katie are together, which is why they kind of break up in the booze cruise when, yeah, weirdly he invites her and then breaks up with her within 20 minutes, I guess. Within By the night is over, they are no longer a pair, which is so strange. And that's even when he opens up to he doesn't open up to Pam about having a crush on her. He opens up to Michael about having a crush on her while he's dating. Well, I guess at that point they probably weren't, but they were dating Katie. And even and kind of to make things worse, Roy drunkenly sets a date for their wedding while he's there and while Katie's kind of upset and everything. So, you know, a bit of a short-term lease on that one, but nevertheless, the next person is definitely the one that you've been waiting for, and that is Jim and Karen. Now, I actually really like Jim and Karen. They kind of got together when uh, Jim went to Utica. I don't even think he expected to get together with Karen, to be honest. I don't think initially they kind of liked each other, but you know, Karen was actually a very cool person, I thought. Not really like not an annoying person. You can see on from the left that she's got a bit of a sense of humor. Even on the right side, where even are they? They're in David Wallace's house for some kind of a dinner, and she keeps making a joke about how she's gone out with basically everybody there, but she didn't. She was just joking. She was just playing. She was messing him about, which was nothing in comparison to the way that he messed her about, which is crazy considering this picture. Whoa, this is insane. At Phyllis's wedding, where those two are dancing, and while Jim and Karen are dancing, Jim looks over to Pam. And look at the way he's looking at her. Oh my days. Can we talk about this? I don't think this is talked about enough. He was actively using Karen to get to Pam just to make Pam jealous. And, you know, in the modern world, we might call that a red flag, or maybe toxic is a better word, but this is insane. I don't like, well, I mean, I don't care. I love those two together. They were probably the realest couple. And I don't think there'll be a couple like them ever in sitcom, Jim and Pam. So, I mean, fair enough. But either way, if this was real life, that would be horrendous. I mean, Now, these next two slides are within 24 hours of each other, which is crazy considering what I'm about to say. So, in the picture, Jim and Karen are going to New York to interview for Jan's job. So, Jan is getting fired, but she doesn't know about it. But either way, they're going to interview, and you can see how on the left they've kind of gone to New York a day early just to see the sights, and then this is them two right before the interview, basically. And throughout that time, at one point, Karen asks Jim, "Are you willing to move to New York with me?" Because, it's most likely that one of those two is going to get the job. So the other surely will need to move, right? Because they're together and assuming they kind of see a life together. So it makes sense, right? But then, oh my goodness, he doesn't even finish. Oh, he does finish the interview, but literally less than 24 hours after that, after saying that he would move to New York with her, he goes and asks out Pam. Now, for the first time seeing it, I was absolutely elated because this just had to happen, right? But it's only when you've watched it for the 23rd time you realize that Jim was actually a bit of a not nice person. He was a bit of a red flag. I mean, they were all there to see, but we kind of chose not to see it, right? But this is, could you imagine that? Could you imagine that literally, after finishing the interview, you kind of just say, "Hey, would this other person want to go out with me? I think I much prefer her." So I don't think that's a. I mean, it worked out well for Jim in the end, but this wasn't great for Karen, unfortunately. And Karen was pretty good too. So yeah, that's the end of the presentation of my PowerPoint. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you